I am a consumer, and I am the first consumer. I enjoy meaning and knowledge of consumption and knowledge of the qualia of consumption that has to do with these characterizations as well as characterizations of the various good and the bad aspects of what it's like to taste something or the flavoring of something, and which connects us to aspects of ourselves that lead to deeper forms of self-knowing through our palate and our preferences and our unique individual differences that come from our preferences and our subjective experiences of consumption, in which we connect these meaningful processes that have these deep psychological truths to them in relation to informing us of what tends to be the goods and necessities that leads to greater psychological sustainability for ourselves through often these pathways of meaningfulness, and also which we can cultivate a deeper sense of self-virtue through temperance, and particularly a conscience of temperance, and having a cognizance of how various consumables or material, immaterial substances that we ingest and digest and which we consume, it could be knowledge or it can be a matter of thingness and these consumable aspects or components of thingness, such as various objects or materials, as well as substances that have a direct impact on our minds and our bodies and our various forms of embodying and enacting these expressions of meaningful interest and engaging in the world in more of these meaningful ways through various sourcings and resourcings of the sources of consumption and the syntheses of our consciousness, which tend to originate our self-knowing and knowledge, and in which we tend to develop a deeper sense of masterfulness of the world through our enterprisings on consumption and our understanding of abundance that is associated with our patterns of consumption, and scarcity, a recognition of scarcity and what it's like to not have the goods and necessities that is direct to these states and experiences and continuities of ill well-being, and which could be alleviated, in which we can reduce suffering and negativities associated with the qualia and the various states of ill well-being, and what it's like to experience deprivation of goods and necessities and ill well-being associated directly with that, but also to understand more deeply how patterns of consumption and states of consumption and abundance, and having enough or a sense of what's good enough and actually having good enough, and the necessities and goods that we need to be able to psychologically sustain our existences, that allows us to cultivate a deeper sense of uh, not just optimal well-being, but optimism in relation to the world, that expands our minds and broadens our existence to enterprise and explore the world in more of our meaningful, engaging, and interesting ways through our own authenticities or alignments of our conscience with our various forms of embodying and self-expression, but also how we conduct ourselves in the world. And often through a pathway that involves these intents that direct the courses of our perceptions and consciousness, but also our conscious consumption, and which allows us to source and resource the goods and necessities as well as essential psychological truths that we need to maintain positive psychological sustainability and promote this positive infrastructuring of the self that maintains and optimizes our well-being, while also diminishing the ill states of well-being, the negative qualia, and promoting the positive qualia